Welcome to the Edge Talk Radio Network, your weekly source for information, empowerment, and connection. The Edge magazine and its advertisers bring you inspired interviews and conversation on learning and healing, on our sacred journey, and on topics that expand beyond time and space. Now, welcome today's host.
Are you ready to meet your spirit guides, to really get to know your spiritual team? Greetings and welcome to Edge InnerViews. I'm your host, Cathryn Taylor, and today you're going to experience the dynamic duo of evidential mediumship, Suzanne Wilson and Suzanne Giesemann, who will be coming to the Twin Cities May 19th and 20th to offer you an amazing, high-energy, 2-day experience during which you will be invited to move beyond theory and believing to experiencing and knowing. The workshop will include exercises for centering, grounding, and building your spiritual power, tools to sense the guides who work with you, and tools to better communicate with your spiritual team, group exercises with messages from your guides, and an opportunity to meet your personal master guide. In addition to your inner experience, Suzanne will also hold a special session to channel her guides, Sanaya. To hear more details or to see how to register, please go to www.Suzanne, S-U-S-A-N-N-E, and Suzanne, SUZANNE.com. Or you can contact Suzanne's, with a Z, assistant, Bev Garlick, at 888-692-0781 at extension 1. So I'm thrilled to welcome two of the most credible and highly evidential mediums with proven records of valid connections, Suzanne Giesemann and Suzanne Wilson. Hello, are you both there?
Hello, thank you for having us.
Yes.
Hi,
well,
Cathryn.
welcome.
Thanks.
Hi, Suzanne. Suzanne with the Suzanne G and Suzanne W. That's how I'm going to have to address the two of you. Well, Suzanne G, you've been here before, and so I'm excited to welcome you back. And Suzanne Wilson, thank you so much for taking the time to join us so that the two of you can talk about what you're going to bring to the Twin Cities. But before we get into the specifics of the workshop, I'd really like to have each of you give the Edge audience a little bit of the backstory about your personal journey to becoming a medium, and then talk a little bit about how the two of you joined forces, and then we'll talk about the workshop. So, Suzanne G., do you want to begin since you're kind of familiar to the Edge community?
Sure. Thanks, Cathryn. My story is that I call myself one of the most unexpected mediums around. I spent 20 years with a full military career. I retired as a Navy commander, and I was a commanding officer and aide to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, with no idea whatsoever that I would one day be working as a medium. But like so many people who have a family tragedy, the death of my stepdaughter, Susan, who was a Marine when she was struck and killed by lightning, just propelled me into this search for the big answers of life. And in searching for answers such as who are we, why are we here, and why do some people die before their time, I discovered that there is a greater reality, that death is far from the end, and that I have a pretty darn clear connection with those who have passed. And knowing how a visit to a medium helped our family after Susan passed, I've made it my new mission to help others know that those who have passed are not gone forever. They're still right here.
And you've had some pretty amazing experiences. I remember I think it was last year, or was it even 2 years ago, where you came to the Twin Cities and offered one of your workshops. And you talked about some of the amazing experiences that you've had with really helping people deal with making connections. Can you share just one or two of those so that the audience has a sense of what that's like for them?
Well, the reason I love doing this workshop with Suzanne Wilson, is that she and I both focus on the evidence. And by that, I mean that she and I are not satisfied unless the spirits that we're talking to give us verifiable information that we're connecting with them. So I could actually give you stories for the rest of the day with evidence from the spirit world, but just specifics like how the loved one passed, what kind of work they did, their names, their passions. The list goes on and on. So no one story comes to mind right now. To me, it's all about the evidence and the healing that brings to people when they realize, oh, my gosh, they're not just giving us generics. This is my loved one they're talking to.
The story that I remember from the workshop was the one about the fish, and that you were asking the person that had come to have the reading about, did he fish, or you were kind of fishing, and it ended up being the little fish crackers.
No,
that
I
connected.
That was
just
the
brought
evidence.
that up
because I just this moment finished making a slide with that picture in it to tell that story at a big conference that's coming up. That was the funniest story about a young man on the other side who I was talking to his mother here, and he showed me eating goldfish, but he used an image from the movie A Fish Called Wanda. He showed me the little fish tail hanging out of his mouth, and I said to the mother, your son is showing me that he ate goldfish. And we had just had this conversation at dinner the night before, so the young man in spirit used what was in my conscious mind to get the point across. And his mother said, oh, yes, I had to keep him supplied in them. And I said, in goldfish? Are you kidding me? Because he showed me the actual goldfish. And she said, yeah. And I said, that's the most amazing evidence. Can I share that on Facebook to show how clear the spirits come through? And she said, sure. So I put it on Facebook, and it got so many comments because everybody's saying, ew, he ate goldfish. Oh, that's gross. And finally, about 23 comments down, this lady wrote, could he have meant the crackers? And I thought, what? And I wrote to his mother, and she said, well, yes, of course. And it was so funny because the spirit showed me what would get through my consciousness, but his mother heard exactly what he meant, that she had to keep him supplied in goldfish crackers. So just a little bit of spirit.
I remember that. That was my takeaway from that class, was that, not the only one for sure, but certainly one that was a highlight. Well, so what about you, Susan W.? What about your backstory?
Well, I was always a very weird little kid because from the moment I could speak, I was pointing at and talking about lights and spirits around people, and that would get me into trouble at school because, of course, if I told another child, hey, I see an old lady behind you, I think it's your grandmother saying hi, and, of course, the child looks behind them, they don't see it because they're not tuned in like I am, and so I was known as somebody that played tricks or jokes, and then it became, she's crazy Susie. I was just plain crazy. So I learned to keep my mouth shut, and all along I kept these natural-born abilities, which we all have them. Some of us have them and have developed them to different degrees. I kept it to myself a lot, and as a younger adult, it was a secret hobby to go and work on my abilities at workshops and with teachers on the weekends. I was actually very, very focused, Cathryn, on my career. I was really a ruthless career climber. And, in fact, Suzanne and I, the other Suzanne Giesemann, we tease each other because we're the only people we know who have master's degrees in public administration. It's kind of an unusual degree. But I was focused on climbing the career ladder and getting stuff, buying lots and lots of stuff, having a huge house and boats and cars and all of that, and a very successful career. But I like to quote John Lennon, who said, life is what happens to you while you are busy making other plans. In 2007, I believe the universe gave this to me as a gift, but I had a near-death experience. I had anaphylaxis from an allergic reaction, stopped breathing, stepped right out of my body with a nice little pop sound, and things seemed to slow down in the physical world. I was watching them prepare an epinephrine injection to stick in my body, but I was in fast, full speed. in the spirit world, hearing beautiful music, having the arms of my grandfather in spirit around me, and I wanted to keep going. But, of course, I came back because I'm speaking with you now. But after that, Cathryn, I couldn't shut those abilities off. So I had to go back to the same teachers that I had gone to as a super secret hobby and ask them, how do I deal with this? And one teacher finally said to me, well, if all these spirit people are coming to you 24/7, has it ever occurred to you to ask them, what can I do for you? So I began to do that. And I learned, just as Suzanne Giesemann did, about the amazing healing power of being able to know that we are forever beings of light and that no one we love is ever really lost. And furthermore, we have spiritual teams of guides and angels around us helping us. So that's why I am where I am now.
Nice. It's a real Whoopi Goldberg story.
Indeed it is. Ghost is a really great comparison.
Yes, yeah. Well, so I know there are a lot of similarities between the two of you because Suzanne G., I remember you talking about that. But will you share some of those before we start talking about how the two of you came together and what evolved into the workshops? Because this isn't the only workshop that you're offering, is it? There are other workshops that you've offered together?
Is that true? We do the same workshop. We did it in Scottsdale last year, and we just wrapped up the same workshop in Central Florida. It was just so well received that we're really excited to be bringing it to the Twin Cities. But this is the only subject right now, the connecting with guides. But you asked about the similarities between us, and it's downright freaky but wonderful, magical. We both, of course, have the same name. Just a little bit off in the lettering, the S and the Z. Our age is the same, just a little bit off in 1 year. Like Suzanne said, we both have an MPA, a Master's of Public Administration, which is unusual. Neither one of us have our own biological children, but we both have two little dogs who are our furry children, and they're both German dogs. And we both are married to former military men who both worked in missile defense. Am I missing anything, Suzanne?
Birthday's in August.
But I can't tell you now from having done.
Well, so talk a little bit about what you are bringing to the Twin Cities and to other areas in the States, but most specifically to our area on, I think, May 19th and 20th. It's going to be at the Best Western near the Mall of America, I believe. So give us a little bit of a preview of what the participants can expect.
Well, I love that we really stress how it's a partnership with your guides. We get those who attend excited to know that this is not just theory. Their guides are really with them. And so we lay down a little bit of theory, but then have some really great exercises where those who attend get to meet them. Suzanne, why don't you talk about the validation type exercises?
I think it's important to know that it's real, and Suzanne with a Z agrees with me on that. So we have a method that people can learn to use to validate with that main spirit guide, the one that's with you from birth to death and lives in between, that they're real and not just a figment of your imagination. And so you'll get that experience as well. Also, people want to know, what's the name of my spirit guide? What do they look like? And we both agree, and we have 200 years of afterlife research coming through highly credible mediums that tell us that the spirit guides don't really care about the names, but they certainly understand that it makes communication a lot easier, and they don't want us saying, hey, you, and we don't want to say it. So we teach a way to actually come up with the name that you and your guide can agree upon. And furthermore, you leave this workshop, this is the beauty of the whole thing, knowing how to dialogue and begin a more direct line of communication with them going forward. So if you think about this, Cathryn, you already have these invisible beings working behind the scenes, orchestrating signs, symbols, synchronicities, those freaky-deaky coincidences that are sort of like road signs along the way to help you on your journey. What if you could work with them up close and personal, to where you're able to chat with them and feel their guidance within the body and know their guidance within the body before you make the big decision, instead of them having to run after you, while you're making the decision, saying, hey, pay attention, I'm sending you a sign, see this over here. So it just makes life a lot easier.
I love that she worked in the name of the workshop. It's called Up Close and Personal, because that's the whole goal, that you leave the workshop feeling like you've established a real relationship with this guide who you may not have been working with in the past, but going forth, it's exciting to know that now you have the tools, now you know they're there. And Suzanne W. and I, we can't imagine going through our lives without working with our guides hour to hour. Their love, their guidance, we're aware of it, we rely on them, we love them, and this is what we instill in those who come to the workshop. So you can imagine the energy that people enjoy there.
Now, you referenced the master guide and then your spiritual team. Can you talk a little bit about what the master guide is and then what people can expect in terms of getting to know their spiritual team and learning how to communicate with them?
Sure, I'll take that. And this is the Suzanne Wilson, the one with the S. By the way, so folks listening, how confusing do you think it might be to have the first name being exactly the same? So because I have the S with Suzanne, I've become her Esther, like S with sister combined, and she's my Z-ster, like Z and sister combined. But you can just call us Suzanne. What you can expect to learn about your team is really cool, because everybody, whether you know it or not, every single soul on earth has this invisible team that's like your cheerleading section behind the scenes. And that team is made up of spirit guides they're professionals. They are the ones whose job it is to help you navigate life and to achieve your greater good and those goals that you set for yourself as a soul before you came into this body. And you have those guides, but you also have angels and, yes, your loved ones who've gone on before you, both people and pets, can work as helper guides. So some guides will come and go for a season or a reason, depending on what you're going through in your life, like a new job, a difficult relationship. But there's always one guide, just like there's always one angel that is always, always, always with you. You're never alone, and they have the bigger picture. We refer to the one guide that's always with you as the master spirit guide. That doesn't mean they're the master of your destiny. You are the master of your own destiny. But they know the master blueprint for the life that you planned before you came. And they will help keep you on track. So you'll get to know that guide. You'll also be introduced to the specialist guides that are working with you at this time, and learn a way to continue communicating with all of them that will serve you for the rest of your life.
Nice. So would you say that the Master Spirit Guide is exchangeable with the term of Guardian Angel, or would those two be different?
It can be interchangeable. In fact, some people say, in my mind's eye, I see an angel when I call for my Master Spirit Guide. Great. That's the appearance that you perceive. That is how it resonates in your heart. That is perfectly fine. In fact, when I see the guides, typically, I see them as light beings, and they will wear an appearance for our benefit. So if you see them with wings and you want to call them angels, that's fine. Most people will find that their Master Spirit Guide just looks like a person in street clothes or clothes from another era. And the guardian angel may be light or may have wings that look of light. Or darn it, they could have feathers and big feathered wings. It's really something that beautiful being and you and your subconscious agree upon that you will perceive. You're going to see them the way you need to see them. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes. What about you, Susan G? I know that you work a lot with Sanaya as your personal guide. Can you talk a little bit about that relationship? Because that's fascinating.
Oh, I count on them not to make decisions for me. This is a very important distinction. Our guides are there for guidance, but because we're beings with free will, we're the ones who ultimately have to choose what choice we're going to make, what guidance we listen to, and what we act on or don't act on. So it's not like we use our guides like a crutch. But when I need an answer that comes from a higher perspective for dealing with issues that I'm facing here, I always turn to Sanaya, to my team, and the insights that they give me leave me saying, oh, wow, I'm glad I asked. You know, listening to Suzanne talk about these different beings showing up as light and angels with wings, I have to laugh as I put myself back in my military uniform and wonder what the generals and the admirals I used to work with would think if they heard this conversation. And I know they'd roll their eyes and think it's crazy, just as I would have years ago. But I'm telling you, the evidence, the help that they have provided in our lives leaves absolutely no doubt that they're real, no matter how they show up to us. The proof is in the way our lives flow. Everybody who's listening can benefit from this. Doesn't matter what your beliefs are, they're there. If you open up to it, then the beautiful flow of life just happens. So people can roll their eyes all they want. We know it's real, and all you have to do is open your mind to it to experience this wonder.
Now, I have kind of an off-topic question, because we're talking about spirits that have actually left body and have died and have transitioned. Do you ever work with anybody where, say, their loved one hasn't actually severed that but is in a coma or is, you know, still connected to the physical body but not present in the physical body?
Yes, and it's so funny because the other day as we finished up the up close and personal workshop here in Central Florida, we had a short question and answer period to make sure that everybody's questions were answered before they left. And somebody asked a similar question, and in perfect unison, Suzanne W. and I both said, the soul is the soul is the soul. So from our experience, we know that you can communicate with the soul, whether it's still in a body, whether that body is no longer functioning well, such as a coma or dementia, or whether there is no body. The soul is the soul is the soul.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Well, so let's talk a little bit about the specifics of the workshop and what participants can expect. And again, it is May 19th and 20th. What's the time frame on both of those days?
That's 9 a.m. to 4:30 both days. And it's funny because with Suzanne with her corporate background and me with my military background, we really do a good job of staying on schedule and not running over because there's so much good information to share. We just make sure we get to all of it.
So you've got the 2 days to kind of have the participants experience what I read in the intro. Can you talk a little bit more about each one of those things, like the exercises and the meeting of the guides, and just so people have a feel for how they're going to experience it?
Sure, I'll take that. You will be able to use whatever abilities work for you. So someone will tell me, I'm not particularly visual. Well, fine. You're going to have an opportunity to sense or feel or simply have a knowing of the energy of the guide that they're there with you. But we give enough opportunity for everyone to either see, hear, feel, sense, and also how to use their own physical body as a sort of like I call it a human pendulum, where you can feel, if you ask your guides for their opinion, where you can feel the yes as like a warm, tingling upward feeling that comes through the body, or the no is kind of like a wah, wah, or a drop that people will feel in their gut or solar plexus. There's so many tools, it's hard to summarize them, but whether you think you're good at this or you think you're good at that, we will show you how to use how you are right now. Whatever you have developed intuitively right now, we'll leverage that and help you use it. And those areas where you don't have any experience, don't worry about it. When the two Suzannes are together, we're like this wonderful energy battery and amplifier that everyone in the room draws on. So even people who told me that they've never seen anything in their mind's eye before or never felt the presence of spirits, they have the opportunity to do it. So it's very hands-on. It's not all boring lecture. Neither one of us like that. And so you'll sense things in an individual exercise and also in the small group.
Oh, nice, nice. Well, and we've kind of talked about the workshop and each one of your stories, but before we run out of time, how did the two of you cross each other's paths?
It's a great storyteller. Absolutely. I like to listen to it because I just sit here grinning ear to ear.
You mean about the bird, Suzanne?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we had heard of each other and seen each other at a conference, but our paths kept crossing, so we didn't get to talk. And it was at a dedication of 2 benches in honor of 2 young sons for people that we know, where we actually met. It was on a hike to these benches, and we had an opportunity to talk and really clicked with each other. And so Suzanne kindly invited me to go to a nice little tea shop with her. We had a girls' tea, and then I went back with her to her office. And it was so wonderful sitting there in her beautiful office in Carefree, Arizona. She's known as the Carefree Medium because she works in Carefree, Arizona. But I saw in Suzanne a kindred spirit, somebody that I could really relate to, not just because of all these things we have in common, but somebody who really understood what it's like to deal with people who are in grief and with the unusual work we find ourselves in now. But I think you should tell them about the special visitor we had there, Suzanne.
Okay, so that would have been just a nice meeting. What a nice lady. Oh, great coincidences. I'll run into you at a conference somewhere. But something happened that rocked my world. Suzanne ran a little experiment. There had been a bird that had shown up out of nowhere and had tapped on my window right before we met at this event. Well, I told Suzanne about that, and unbeknownst to me, after she left my office, the next day she had been reading about sending your energy to someone, sending a part of your soul, your spirit to someone while you're still living. A soul is a soul is a soul. And so she didn't say she was sending a bird, but she left that up to the guides in the universe. And she did this experiment, and she marked the time, and she did a screenshot on her phone of what time she did this. But she said, now I am sending a part of my soul, my consciousness, to Suzanne Wilson at her office in Carefree. Well, I didn't know that she had done that, but here comes this bird. And this bird sits on my windowsill, and I'm trying to work, and it's sitting there hitting with its beak my window, tap, 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 like nonstop, robotically, and I'm annoyed. But, things happen, and I'm like this lifelong note taker. So over on my calendar, I scribble in the time. Okay, bird showed up, because that's what I do. I keep these notes of different things happening. And it just wouldn't stop. So later on that evening, she texts me and asks me, hi, did anything happen today? And I'm like, what? Yeah. No, she goes, did anything unusual happen today? And I said, well, yeah, I had a visit from the bird, and this time I didn't know what was going on with the bird. I hadn't asked for a sign. I was sitting here, and it was obnoxiously tapping, and in fact, it was annoying. And she said, okay, what time? When I told her the time, it was when she was sending a piece of her soul here. What's interesting about this is that Suzanne didn't try to control how her soul would show up to me. She left that to the spirit team.
Cool. What's really cool, and this is the super synchronicity, is that just a week or two before, both Suzanne and I had been doing experimental readings for Dr. Gary Schwartz in his Laboratory of Human Consciousness at the University of Arizona. We've both been tested by Dr. Schwartz and validated our mediumship abilities, that mediumship is real. And we met with him separately, not knowing the other was meeting with him, hadn't even spoken. Hadn't even met at that point. And yet both of us, in separate readings with separate sitters, both received the message from the spirit world that those in spirit often send signs to loved ones here by blending their consciousness with a bird. The spirit showed us that they use the bird, they guide the bird like remote control, and both of us told Dr. Schwartz the message that the spirit said, the birds say it's fun. And that's how my spirit showed up to Suzanne by merging with the bird. It's just, it's beautiful.
Yeah, and
well,
just imagine
evidence.
On the other side they have a little remote control, like a TV remote, that they can use to make that bird do the little loop-de-loos or tap obnoxiously on the window to say, I love you, I'm still here.
You know what's beautiful about that story is it brings the whole concept of evidence right down between those of us who are still living. So this isn't just between those who have crossed over and us.
That's right.
It'd be like a communication that we can have with anybody. That's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Well,
I'm a little concerned here about the use of the word obnoxious and annoying, Suzanne. I hope that that's only the bird and not me.
I'm like, I'm finishing a reading and this bird is doing this. And I'm like, you're distracting me. And I literally tuned into it and said, are you for a soul in this reading? And I got nothing. I'm like, get out of here.
Oh, that's funny. Well, like I was about ready to say, the Twin Cities community has a lot in store for it. So I'm very excited about the two of you coming, and I really want to thank you for taking the time. I want to go over the information one more time. So the name of the workshop is Up Close and Personal. It's going to be on May 19th and 20th, and I believe you said 9 to 4:30 or 9:30 to 4.
It's 9 to 4:30. There's a nice ad in the Edge magazine this month about it, so there's good information there as well. 9 to 4:30, the 19th and 20th of May.
Okay, and you can go to the joint website, which is www.SUZANE.com, or you can call Bev Garlip at 888-692-0781, extension 1, to get more information or to register. So I wish you all the luck in the world with the gathering, and thank you again for taking the time to talk to the Edge community.
Thank you, Cathryn.
Thank you. It was
All right.
a lot of fun. Nice to meet you, Cathryn.